Welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. That's Randy Bueller. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and we're all set for the first round of action. We've got a really nice matchup here. I was kind of hoping this would happen at least at one point during the course of this draft.
Same.
We've got Shahar Shenhar versus Reid Duke. We got a chance to watch Reid draft, and as Rich was saying, this is a rematch from Worlds a few years ago.
Yeah, a match, by the way, that features prominently in Enter the Battlefield, the documentary that's coming out next week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. By the way, I can't wait for that. Total aside, but I can't wait for that. All right, players are ready. Let's head down to the feature match area for the first round of action here from Madrid. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Bueller. We are ready for round one action here. Booster draft is in the books. The players can knock off those jitters as we're ready to rumble here. Our first player, Reid Duke. Take a look at Reid here. Reid's got 4 Grand Prix victories on his resume, and of course, his opponent, Shahar Shenhar. This is really interesting. They played against each other in the 2013 World Championship Finals.
Yep.
Shahar won that. Then he won it again the next year. He actually is our 2014 World Champion as well, though he interestingly does not have any Pro Tour top 8s on his resume as of yet. So as far as the matchup goes, this is about the ideal start here for Duke. He's got an Heir of Falconwrath to kick things off, and he's got 2 of those in his list. He's playing red-black vampires. On the other side, we have a very Innistrad-centric battle here. We got werewolves versus vampires. You know, you throw a zombie into the mix, and that's about all the flavor. But as it sits, it's a quilled wolf here for Shahar. A nice little 2-drop, but it's not going to compete with the Heir of Falconwrath in a realistic way. And Shahar's just going to Reid's just going to get aggressive here, transform into Heir of the Night, and get in there.
The Noble, I believe, was the discard.
I think it was actually a Mentor.
The Mentors. Yeah, Strongfork Mentor. You're right.
Mentor is what hit the bin
No
there.
third land drop for Reid.
Well, it looks like he's got his game plan acquired. Not a great play here for Shahar. You know, what he'd really like to do is just kill the Heir here and get going, but a Convicted Killer's a reasonable start after he cracks in for 2. And right off the top, Reid Duke finds that third land, and it's even a mountain. It's going to get him a Noble here. That was a big draw. If Reid does nothing for that turn, Convicted Killer starts getting a little grumpier and all of a sudden starts hammering in for 4, and it becomes very, very difficult for Reid to come back, for Reid to come back from that.
Just going to trade it for the Convicted Killer.
Yeah, I think that Reid realizes that he may not have a way to keep that Convicted Killer from becoming a branded howler, and he needs to actively start trading resources. Unfortunately for Reid, that's not what he wants to do, right? He's the aggressor here.
Right.
He'd like to be attacking a lot more. But another land off the top's good, and bang, there's a Stromkirk Mentor.
Jeez.
That's going to put the +1/+1 counter on the Heir to the Night, and boom, crunch in for 4. And this damage is adding up very quickly here. Shahar's down to 14. Yeah, these are sweet decks. Both of these are what I would call solid versions of their given archetype. Neither player decided to go for the really deep, kind of crafty strategies. They kept things a little more straightforward with these 2 beatdown decks. But it does give us a chance to see some of what we can. And wow, that is a lot of lands in hand for Shenhar. He's got an Ulrich's Kindred, and I believe the rest of his hand are lands. Yeah, take a look at his cards in hand on the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll see a lot of forests, a lot of mountains, and now he's just played out his last spell, so he's going to need to find some action. Or Reid actually has a chance to raise Shahar just with this Heir to the Night, and especially now that it has a counter on it. 3-turn clock here. Ooh, Grotesque Mutation in hand for Duke, which will actually knock an entire turn off the clock and make it almost impossible for Shenhar to race from this scenario, even if he, grabs some haste creatures or some burn spells.
It's like -1 turn for his kill speed and plus a turn for Shahar's.
Yeah, a 2-turn swing off of a combat trick. You don't see that very often. Now, Reid can wait if he'd like. The difference is that he gives Shahar an extra draw step. And what Reid's thinking about now is, are there any cards in the format that punish me? Remember, the Heir has 3 toughness. And you know what? No.
No, I don't
Like-
want. I don't want to let him untap Fiery Temper mana.
No. The only thing is Lightning Axe, I think that Reid has to consider
Sure.
here. And I have to assume that it would have died sooner if I'm in Reid's seat
Fair.
to the Lightning Axe. And so he's going to go for it. And I like this play from Reid. Again, the reason to go for it now is to not let Shahar have an extra draw step here. Did he find an Intrepid Provisioner? I believe that's what I saw off the top, which doesn't look amazing here, though. He does get to crunch in for 5.
Yeah, none of his creatures are humans. That turn 2 Era Falconwrath is going to go all the way.
It is going to deal every single point of damage for this entire game. Unreal. And that's going to be game 1. Reid Duke plays turn 2 Era Falconwrath, transforms it, just no madness, just discards a spell, and rides that thing to victory. That's going to do it for game 1 here in round 1 at the PT. We'll be back right after this.
Outfit your Magic collection with the newest Shadows over Innistrad accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios of your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com. Put what you've learned from watching the Pro Tour into action next weekend at Game Day. Test your skills and your new standard deck at a store near you. Top finishers are awarded special Game Day prizes, including full art premium promo cards and a champion playmat for the winner.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in beautiful Spain. We're in Madrid, playing a little Magic early in the morning here. And let's jump over to one of our side tables. We've got Ryuichi Tamada versus Martin Mueller. So yet another big-time matchup here. Martin Mueller, of course, one of the young stars of Team Eureka.
God, that first pod was just so stacked.
Totally.
Reid versus Shahar. It's like, how does Martin Muller versus Ryuichi Tamada not get to start off the Pro Tour? Well, 4 versus 13, but not a World Championship rematch.
Tamada, of course, he started playing PTs at PT Amsterdam in 2010. He's got a PT top 8 on his resume.
Yep.
3 GP top 8s as well, and a rather impressive board state here, Randy. You know, the card that really jumps off the table, at least on Tamada's side, is Odric, Lunarch Marshal there, and well, how about Sigarda as well? It looks like Martin, though, has the answer for Sigarda here.
It's called the Bloodline as well.
There is, in fact, a Call the Bloodline on Tamada's side.
So we saw Martin draft this deck, blue-red spells, more or less. He wound up running it with 11 spells and 12 creatures, which is a little heavier on the creature side than you'll sometimes see from this archetype.
Definitely.
He is playing Rush of Adrenaline. The thing that surprised me the most is that he is not playing Rise from the Tides.
Did you say thing?
I did. Sometimes this is just the blue-red thing deck.
Right, yeah, and Martin does, in fact, have a thing in the ice on the battlefield here. As it sits, Odric looks like he's going to give everything lifelink when they attack here, thanks to that 1 vampire token sitting there off of Call the Bloodline. And that's going to make it incredibly difficult for Mueller to race here, even though he does have clean blocks on Odric.
Kind of interesting how that thing in the ice really makes Call of the Bloodline, really sort of negates the Call in the Bloodline plan for Ryuichi Tamada. He doesn't want to go all in on making a bunch of tokens and get them all bounced.
That's right.
Oh, Tenacity.
Oh, Tenacity is a blowout here. And
such a
man,
blowout.
Asylum Visitor's also going to eat the Airdwall, or actually just trade for the Airdwall Illuminator as well. No, sorry,
Thing in the
eat
ice
it. Yeah. All right, why don't we
dies.
jump back to our main match, though, as this one, it looks like Tamada's going to be able to finish it off. And I don't want to miss anything on table A here between Reid Duke and Shahar Shenhar. And it could be quick. Reid Duke's deck could be very fast, and a stumble by him at the wrong time could see Shahar transforming werewolves and running him over. So let's jump back up to our main table here and get underway. No 1-drop there for Shahar. That's not a surprise, though. A 2-mana play would be nice, but he is way far off of that. His Convicted Killer's the first play of the game for Shahar. It's a pretty slow start. An Insolent Neonate for Reid Duke on turn 2, also slow. Okay, and there's Convicted Killer now for Shahar. So the Insolent Neonate is going to attack because it has Menace.
Sure.
It's going to get in for 1. Ooh, nice start here for Reid. In fact, Shahar's going to be a little jealous here as Breakneck Rider hits the battlefield. And Breakneck Rider is great. Breakneck Rider has the normal werewolf transform situation, but on the other side, it becomes Neckbreaker, and it's a 4/3, and your attacking creatures get +1/+0 and have trample. That thing is a closer. The good news is that R&D were kind to the opponents, as if you kill the Neckbreaker, that ability just immediately goes away. It's not like a triggered ability on attacks, it's just a static ability. So you at least have a chance. Oh no. This is bad news here for Shahar potentially, as he just passes his turn back. Both of the werewolves are going to transform, but you got to like Reid's side here. That said,
yeah, he chose to let that happen.
Yeah, he did, right?
Oh, he's setting up Dance with Devils?
Dance with the Devils. Okay, sure.
He could have played Hinterland Logger, but he decided to let both werewolves slip and then set himself up to go for a surprise dance in the middle of combat.
Go for a little dance with Reid. Now, Reid is going to be keenly aware of this, though. He's going to play a Stromkirk Mentor, and is he just going to attack with the Neonate? Is he even going to attack with the Neonate at all?
Wow.
Yes, he is. This is for 3.
Neckbreaker not interested in dancing with anyone.
No. And this works out fairly well for Reid. Reid's going to get in for some amount of damage, and one of these devil tokens can trade off.
Well, he has to double block.
He does have to double block, but it gets a little bit awkward. Let's see what happens here. If he wants to actually get rid of his devils, he can get rid of the Neonate. I don't think it's worth it here, though, for Shahar. Double blocks, he ends up... Oh, never mind. He can kill the Mentor. Yeah, that actually works out just fine.
If he double blocks with both devils, did he triple block?
He did.
Weird. So Reid doesn't have to kill both the devil tokens.
No. He doesn't in any scenario. He can just decide to do 2 to one of them and then not lose his Stromkirk Mentor. So I guess there's no downside to just triple blocking here for Shahar. Reid's tapped out. So what was going to happen before is if Shahar goes for the double block, Reid can say, I want to do 2 damage to one devil and none to the other. And what that ends up meaning is that he could keep his Stromkirk Mentor there. He does actually decide to take out both devils, though, and he does lose his Mentor in the process. So that wasn't great for Reid.
Yeah, Dance with the Devils traded for 2 cards.
Yeah, Shahar's going to be really happy about that. Meanwhile, Reid's going to take 4 from the Branded Howler. Hinterland Logger follow-up play here, and only one more card left in Shahar's hand. One more spell, I should say. He's got 3 cards, 2 lands. Looks like Malevolent Whispers in hand for him.
Attack. No blocks. Take 5. Yep. 14.
Malevolent Whispers can be one of those cards that you can just steal a game with.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yep. Go.
Okay, looks like Reid is just going to go ahead
2 spells. Does flip back to both
and
vampires.
attack after playing 2 spells, exactly. So the werewolves are going to transform.
I think he just needed to get both those creatures onto the board, though. This game is very much looking like a race.
And it looks like Shahar's play for the turn is likely going to be just pass the turn and transform everything back again, as his only other option is just to fire off Malevolent Whispers and try to get in a big attack here. And he could.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it'll do enough, though.
Agreed. Generally speaking, the right play with those type of effects is to wait until you're going to win the game with it or set yourself up to win the game the next turn. And it's possible here, but it's hard to imagine that that's the case. All right, so let's get some transform triggers going.
Both players' hands are land and sort of one race-affecting combat trick. The Grotesque Mutation for Reid, the Malevolent Whispers for Shahar.
So now Reid's going to survey the scene here and try to take a look at how he can leverage this Grotesque Mutation. He's got a few other options here as far as he can just transform his Era Falcon Wrath and start attacking with that. It hits quite hard here as he is going to get bonuses. He'll hit for 4 in the air, but he may be able to push through more damage. It is a little bit scary from Reid's perspective as well. We can sit comfortably knowing that Shahar has nothing that he can play right now, 2 lands and a sorcery in his hand, but Reid can't.
Right.
Reid's staring down 6 mana and 3 cards in hand and is now racking his brain for all the possible combat tricks, removal spells, and ways that these attack steps can go wrong for him. I think the conservative play is just to transform your air and start attacking with that in the air.
Oh my God! Remember that game? We just watched that game where Tenacity from Reichi Tomata seemed like it blew out Martin Mueller. Martin won that game.
How did he win it?
He decked him with Startled Awake.
But only one?
I think it may have come back once.
He Geist
Oh,
blasted
Geist
it.
Blast. Yeah, Geist Blast.
Mueller for 26 got the job done. So Reid decides to stay slightly ahead of the aggression curve by going ahead and attacking with his Vampire Noble. He's fine trading that Vampire Noble for either creature, so he's going to punch in for an extra 4 damage, dropping Shahar down. And this could be over very quickly. Shahar has not had a great draw this game, and it's starting to look like Reid is just going to run him over. Also, another update from one of our side tables, Ole Rade is up a game over Fabrizio and Terry. And Sam Tharmaratnam is up a game over our reigning Pro Tour champion, JC Tao.
King of the Hill.
That's, yeah, you get that seat. You got to earn it, but you get it.
It's nice to see JC made the top 8 in Albuquerque last weekend too. I think that's the first individual Grand Prix he's played since winning the Pro Tour. Top 8 streak is now still live.
Shahar's trying to work out if there's any way he can leverage this Malevolent Whispers to at least force Reid to block. Shahar really with a rough draw this game. Okay, let's see what he's got. Howlpack Wolf can block.
Go.
And he's going to pass the turn. A little bit of posturing there also by Shahar Shenhar. He knew that his play for the turn, once he figured out he couldn't win this turn, was probably just going to be to play this wolf. But he has to at least make Reid think that he could have Dance with Devils or some other type of combat trick or creature.
Removal spell.
Yeah. Is this Stencia Masquerade?
Ooh.
Oh. Well, that changes things a lot, and I think we're going to see a big attack here from Duke. Yeah, he's in. Reid has the read, as they say, and he doesn't think that Shahar has anything.
Well, you don't need a read when they all have first strike.
It's
Just
true.
Shove them in.
This is a massive lethal attack here, and there is no way for Shahar to get out of this mess. He's just surveying the scene here, but with no discard outlet, he can't steal a card, and he just has to extend the hand. Reid Duke defeats Shahar Shenhar here in the early stages of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad and takes the match.
What'd you have? I didn't have this, but it would have been lethal if you had nothing. I was at 17 damage, you had 2 toughness.
All right, let's jump over to our King of the Hill match. We're going to watch JC Tao and Sam Tharmaratnam
Oh, you mean you could have gone
as
for it?
they are in the, looks like they're in the early stages of game number 2 here. That's Sam on the left-hand side of your screen. Sam's pitching in there with a couple of spirit tokens, it looks like. You can see the Vessel of Ephemera there in the graveyard, no doubt where those came from. He's also got a Neglected Heirloom, which is a card that when you put it in your deck and you start equipping creatures for just the 1 mana, you're not thrilled about it, but you're okay. And then if you ever get to transform it, the card's completely insane. So it's a card that has just enough impact that you don't hate having it in there, and then the times when you get to do it, it's just completely crazy card. Looks like JC's deciding if he wants to play that Devilthorn Fox in his hand. No, he's going to equip and attack. I'm assuming that that's a True Faith Sensor, though I can't actually quite see it.
There is one in his deck.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it gives Vigilance. Also nice on the Pious Evangel there just because it is a human. And so he gets an extra bonus from the True Faith Sensor. Another +1/+0 tacked onto the normal +1/+1.
This is a solid looking green-white humans deck from JC. It's also got a nice Delirium sub-theme. 2 copies of Shard of the Broken Glass, both in the main deck, to turn on Delirium. Yeah. No, that's a card. Some people...
How many Abyssinian Missionaries are in that list?
Abyssinian Missionaries is 0.
Okay, wow. So commitment acquired.
Yeah, no, that's, if you want to get Delirium quickly, you should be playing Shard of Broken Glass.
Yeah, if you want it fast, that does a very good job of getting that.
And, I mean, in the green-whites decks want to be fast, right? This is 3 Intrepid Provisioners sitting at the top of the curve. You know, he's got a Topplgeist, he's got a Reaper of Flight Moonsilver, Pious Evangel.
Looks like we got a good old-fashioned race on our hands here, Randy. These guys are just thumping. Sam's left back 1 Spirit to trade with the Wolf. He's going to take 4 damage here, though, from the Pious Evangel.
You do not sound impressed by Shard of Broken Glass.
I am not impressed by Shard of Broken Glass. I think I'd view it more as like necessary evil. Like if I really want Delirium and the payoffs are there, sure, I get it. But the card as it sits is so mediocre.
I've heard multiple teams swear by it.
Okay.
At this point, I mean, it is controversial at this point. It's one of those. I don't know if it's quite at the Bonesaw level, but I think it's. I mean, I think the card is more useful than Bonesaw in the vanilla case. But yeah, some people swear by it, and some people are like, "Why would you put that in your deck?" It's kind of interesting that we're still at that point in the format.
I love that. That's one of the things I love about Limited are those discussions.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of the nice things about this format in particular too is there's a lot of those debates over a lot of cards right now.
Totally. So, Stallion of Ashmouth there for Sam Tharmarotnam. Currently just a 3/3. He's got land and enchantment in his graveyard, so he's still only halfway to Delirium. But that's not going to stop him from attacking. And JC Tao, it's going to give him pause here. He's actually considering the potential to trade or to make a block. He has left 2 mana up for his Pious Evangel. He can transform it here if he'd like. It becomes a 2/4 on the other side. And he has to pay 2 mana and tap it and sacrifice another permanent to do that. It becomes a Wayward Disciple. And looks like Sam is just updating himself on what that exactly does here.
I'm sure you knew that.
Interestingly, also, the Wayward Disciple is also a human as well as the front. It stays that way. And so it would get all of the relevant bonuses from the True Faith sensor. In this case, just +1/+0 addition to the rest. But
Your priority? I'm good.
all right, so it looks like Sam has passed priority, and now it's on JC Tao to figure out if he wants to take on the risk here of transforming. And he's not going to. He's just going to allow this trade to happen. So the Stallion is going to die, and same with the Pious Evangel. JC's going to take 1 from the Spirit. And he needs to find some action here.
Inquisitor with a True Faith sensor hits pretty hard.
It does.
What is that, 5?
It's 5, yeah. You can see that there's some human synergies happening here on JC Tao's side of the table with the equipment.
Now this is an equipment you're willing to just play, right? True Faith sensor?
Yeah, it's fine. I try not to be honest.
I like it in the humans deck.
Yeah, agreed. It does pull its weight in humans. +2/+1 in Vigilance is worth it for 2 to cast, 2 to equip. I like that. And it looks like JC's, I mean, we've seen it equipped to 2 creatures so far, both human, so he's taking advantage. More human-specific cards in his hand. You can see the Intrepid Provisioner.
Yeah, 3 of those in the list.
3 of them? Yeah, so that's a 3/3 for 4, and when it enters a battlefield, you can give another target human +2/+2 until end of turn.
Oh, it looks like JC sideboarded in Angel of Deliverance. That did not start in the main deck.
They usually don't. Sometimes they do.
Black-white, though, a matchup that can be a little grindy.
For sure. By the way, on that kind of exciting finish we had between Martin Mueller and Ryuichi Tamada, Tamada's taking game 2 to force a 3, so no fireworks at the end there from Mueller.
Yeah, so bad at this game. Hold on.
All right, Provisioner it is.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Hold on, put it back on the stack. Yeah,
What just happened?
Looks like Strength of Arms here for Tao. Though I'm not. It looks
I
like
thought he
there's a
blocked
little
with
bit
the
of
skeleton,
confusion
right?
about the timing here.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
He did block with the skeleton? Okay. JC fired off a strength of arms there, though. Might have missed something, but I haven't actually figured out why that happened. He does, of course, get the 1/1
Yeah, he gets the token.
human token off of it, but that I don't know if JC would do that, you know, quite so hastily there.
I mean, if it was rush of adrenaline, now trample, we'd be talking.
Right, and also if JC thought that it was unblocked, then he would be. I think that would be lethal then,
Yeah,
right? It would
absolutely.
be 3, 5, 7. Yeah, but
He pretty clearly tapped the skeleton.
okay. Well, maybe he thought something different, but he definitely got the 1/1 because he controls an equipment.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it was a misstep from JC Tao, it's not the end of the world. He's still in a good board position here, although Sam attacking for 2 in the air is a little scary because it means he's got something. Well, we knew about that. Okay, make a 2/3 skeleton and pass. Well, that's not much.
Yeah, JC still wins this race. On board.
Quite handily. He's going to move the sensor
To the trampler.
over to the trampler. And he's just going to attack with everything.
So it's 5-power trampler. 3/3 on the Inquisitor, since
That's-
there's 1 equipment.
That's right.
And then the flyer.
Well, it's on the ground, but yeah. Just a human.
Sure.
I mean, this does leave Sam at 1 if he chump blocks. He's going to need something here, though, realistically, to win this game. Because even if he goes to 1 this turn, he will have chump blocked and be facing down 3 lethal threats minimum. Okay. Strength of arms now for Tharmaratnam.
Sure. Now he's got
He's
a
going to
better
make this guy
blocker.
a 4/5, but still not quite what he wants. Okay, yeah, that works. He takes no damage from the Intrepid Provisioner. He takes 3 and falls down to 4, and he even gets to trade. Okay, that worked out pretty well for Sam, all told. But he is going to be facing a lethal threat. And there's a Cathar's companion now for JC Tao as well, which interestingly is not lethal.
Tharmaratnam's got some options in his hand.
What kind of stuff does he have? Take a look at his hand. There it is. You can see he's got Delirium enabled underneath his name there, which can be huge. Skeleton plus Grotesque Mutation's pretty good here. Murderous Compulsion to kill the Inquisitor is also quite nice.
That's what I was looking at.
Wow. His hand is stacked.
I mean, he could also Angelic Purge something, though.
Totally.
Okay, he's going to get in some damage and get the life link.
This is a big hit. He's gaining 5 here and going to 9, dropping JC down to 5.
Yeah, man.
It's funny because, you know, looking at the board state, it looked like it was all JC Tao, but looking at the hands, Sam Tharmaratnam, his hand was just stacked up. Getting through for 9 damage with just the Cathar's Companion and a skeleton on the other side is going to be really tough. Now there's an Angelic Purge. Is it time, JC? Is he going to purge that token?
Purge the skeleton.
Or the skeleton if he thinks he can win the race, which he can.
How's he getting through for damage if he doesn't purge the skeleton? I think you got to get the skeleton exiled.
I just wonder how worried he is about dying in the air. I mean, the clock currently
Sure.
favors JC. It does. If he purges his skeleton, then it favors him significantly here.
Sack to land. That angel is going to stay in his hand.
Yeah, he didn't want to do that earlier with the Pious Evangel.
Yeah.
That was the reasoning for that. But yeah, it's just I think he's just accepted that Angel of Deliverance sometimes doesn't get to make it out of your hand. And there's 4 damage,
He also took himself off Thornhide Wolves. But
5 apiece.
Oh, yes, still with us. That would have been a big thing.
you still get vigilance with True Faith Sensor.
Correct.
All the time. You only get the second power if it's a human.
not human's best friend.
If I had, I wouldn't have told you. Tell you that.
Wow, this has been a really cool game. Like, this has been absolutely... Look, and here he goes. Sam's attacking again. Drop JC down. So we know he's got something.
I have 4.
Skeleton's been exiled, so it can't be that. Wow, this has just been a sick back and forth between these guys. Angelic Purge. Take out your only attack here.
Did he draw another Murderous Compulsion?
Go ahead.
Tharmarant.
That's what we're showing.
Yeah, which is not very good against True Faith Sensor, for the record.
No, it's not. And it's really not very good here because, A, it'll be a 1 lethal attack anyway. But Tharmarotnum presses forward. He doesn't care. Down to 3 goes Tau.
Wow.
And he's found a blocker. It looks like a Ghoul Caller's accomplice here.
Yeah, his
That's
plan
really
is
all he needed was just a chump block.
block.
Intrepid Provisioner. If he had drawn that in the other order, he'd be in reasonable shape. But
Wow.
wow, and that does it. Sam Tharmarotnum wins the match. Yeah, why not, Sam? You should smile. That was a well-played and very tight match there. But he does win it 2-0 over JC Tau, and he takes over for
New King of the Hill? It sounds like we just got a result on our other match from the featured pod as well.
Yeah, we had Martin Mueller defeating Ryoichi Tamada 2-1. So he found a way to win with those flyers that we saw in Martin's deck. We've got one more match left in our feature match area. That's on our back table. You see Hall of Famer Ole Rade. He's up a game right now over Fabrizio and Terry from England.
Fresh off the Grand Prix win last weekend.
We said that last Pro Tour, by the way.
You know how he's done this 3 times.
Is it 3 times now?
3 different times he's won a Grand Prix the weekend before the Pro Tour. I mean, he's won 5 Grand Prix, but yeah, 3 of them have in fact come right before the PT.
We made a big deal out of it last weekend from Barcelona, but Fabrizio has won 5 of the 10 Grand Prix he's top 8'd.
5 Grand Prix wins. There's only 3 people on the planet with more wins than that. He's tied for 4th all time. And this is a guy, it's his only playing his 12th Pro Tour. Like, he's pretty early in his career of playing premier events. He's just been at it for a couple years now.
I think that is going to be the interesting thing to see from Fabrizio is when does he start translating that into Pro Tour success, right? Putting up top 8s and beating the best players in the world here. I mean, think that's going to be his focus.
They are, I agree, and he wants to succeed at the Pro Tour level. I also think he was very happy to be featured the entire length of that Grand Prix. But it is a different skill. Like being able to win a Grand Prix versus top 8 of Pro Tour, those are different skills.
All right, looks like we've got a handshake here. Mostly white for Ole Rade. You can see his board state is all white cards. And he had a couple of attackers that were able to get in. It looks like the Bound by Moonsilver.
Sure, you can sacrifice a land here, but maybe if you do sacrifice, like I had that in hand. Yeah. I had the hope anyway. Like I don't have other ways to discard.
Teammates, both from Team Eureka.
Is to like try to trigger this guy.
Doing the post-game decompress.
Yeah, talking about some of the combat tricks that I have to say Fabrizio has had a big hand in popularizing here in Shadows over Innistrad booster draft. Fabrizio's the one at the GP level, both in sealed, I will also say, and booster draft, who kind of pioneered this idea of playing 5 or 6 combat tricks in a hyper-aggressive deck here in Shadows. We've seen other formats, of course, that have had that type of strategy in them, but people, maybe it's a stigma of old Innistrad. The original Innistrad was a slower format in general and one that you could kind of develop these deeper strategies. And there's a lot of those here in Shadows. And I think that, I know I'm speaking for myself. I want to explore those. And if people are like, I give my creature +2/+0 and trample until end of turn, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But turns out you can get people dead pretty quickly in this format by doing that. And Fabrizio really put that on display in Barcelona.
Still, though, Pro Tour and he got a loss. We actually had probably the 2 best players without a Pro Tour top 8 in the feature match area that round. Fabrizio, who's crushing the Grand Prix, and Shahar Shenhar, who just crushes the World Championship. You give Shahar 2 months to learn a format, and he just seems to be the best player in the world. Arguably the best player in the world with that time.
Certainly the player with the most success in that type of format. Back-to-back World Championship victories.
That is another one, though, where I think there is a little bit of a different skill set. The fresh standard, nobody really knows for sure what's up versus, okay, we've been banging these decks against each other for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I know exactly how the matchups work and how this sideboard is going to swing this match.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And then both Shahar and Fabrizio lost that round, too.
Yeah, that is interesting. It is funny because, we just mentioned 2 different, we'll call call them meta games, right? You know, different styles of tournament, playing against different type of players. And, you know, we've got another one here with the Pro Tour, and that one seems to suit some people as well.
Yep.
Maybe it's a different preparation method. Maybe it's a mentality. Right? Yep. You know, it does take a while sometimes for people to get into the comfort zone and the confidence level of saying, I can play at this level and I expect myself to do well.
I mean, some of it too, honestly, is when you play against people at the Pro Tour, they have that extra trick. You know, you're like, you know, rush of adrenaline, uncaged fury, and just kind of give your opponent no credit for having an answer and just like trample over the top of them. That doesn't work as often at the Pro Tour.
No, they know.
You know, Owen Turtenwald has a trick in his hand.
Yes.
He just always does.
Yeah, it's true. And also, you know, I was actually having a chat with Matej Zadelkai, who tested with Fabrizio for this Pro Tour, about, you know, how that mentality develops itself. And he said that Fabrizio really is focusing on trying to get better at the Pro Tour level. You mentioned it, though. It's easy for us because we see Fabrizio with so much success at the Grand Prix level to assume that he's just a grizzled veteran who's, you know, most people who have 5 GP wins, not that that's a big list. How about this? Most people that have 3 GP wins have been playing Magic for 15 or 20 years at a competitive level. And Fabrizio, on that scale, is relatively new to the scene. You said this is what, his 12th or 13th Pro Tour, right?
Yeah, he's played 11 before. This is number 12, and this is like the 10th in a row. So he kind of got onto the circuit, what, 2.5 seasons ago.
Yeah,
That's all he's
2.5
got.
seasons ago, and he is a relatively new player to the high level competitive scene. So we'll of course be keeping an eye on Fabrizio. I'll tell you what, I'm not worried about him. You know, like I've seen him play enough.
Dude can play.
Yeah,
I
he
agree with
can
you
battle.
completely.
Yeah, and he'll work this out and get himself to where he needs to be. But it is interesting to watch the storyline for us in the booth and of course for you at home, just because it brings out the human element in it so much, right? Where you can see that like sometimes people get a mental block, sometimes they get stuck, and I don't know exactly what it is for Fabrizio specifically, but I am curious to see, you know, how that shapes up for him. Randy, any impressions on the draft format so far? We got to see a lot of it in Barcelona. You and I have been drafting a bunch, but now full-time professional Magic players are getting their hands on it. Have you heard any whispers, or what's been your impressions?
I mean, I think there are some people who like aggro. I think there are some people who like the sort of slower, grindier decks. I think that you're really seeing, so far what we've seen is we've seen people building a deck with a coherent plan. It's not the pile of good cards. I mean, Reid Duke with that Vampire deck, it looked sweet. He's now up. He's got the win. We saw Martin Mueller with a very dedicated spells deck, right? He also had, you know, a draft order custom tailored to what he was trying to do to get the synergy, eke out all the synergy he could between those two colors. Martin with the win there. We are going to keep following that draft pod, by the way. We're, you know, the plan for both the draft pods that we cover this weekend is we pick our featured table. We watch 2 drafters. We watch, you know, one of the least we'll see is, okay, feature one of them in the next round, and then watch the draft playoff, the 2-0 versus 2-0 at the end of that draft to see who actually wins that draft and kind of complete the story of that draft. So Martin and Reid 1-0 each. We may just be following the 2 of them, but I mean, plenty of other talent on that table as well.
Yeah, so that means we're very likely to see Martin Mueller next round.
Yeah, I want to see more of his deck. We saw a little bit of it. I mean, it's funny. The little bit that we actively saw was him, I thought, getting blown out by Tenacity. And it's true that Tenacity meant he couldn't kill Tomato with damage, but
he just took another route, and sometimes that's what you get. He just decked his whole library. Yeah, pretty insane. All right, that's going to do it for round 1 here from the booth. Let's send it back to the news desk.
Thanks very much to Marshall and Randy with the call there from the first round. Let me just walk you through some of the results. Patrick Chapin, known as a constructive master, but he's underway with a limited win against Ben Whites of the United States. 2 Japanese Hall of Famers played each other this round. Kenji Samura wins, Masashi Oizo loses. The number 1 ranked player in the world, Owen Turtenwald, he has a loss, but it's to a very, very good player, another Platinum Pro, Jason Chung of New Zealand. As we head on down, Brock Parker is 0-1. Francesco Giorgio, part of the English World Magic Cup team a couple of years back, is a winner in round 1. Luis Scott Vargas underway. If you follow LSV on Twitter, I know many thousands of you do, he says his first deck is a flat 10 out of 10. Super excited. We'll see if we can get him in the feature match area for you later on. Another Japanese Hall of Famer, Shuhei Nakamura, is underway with a win over Giovanni Baldinato, one of the Italians here. And Ricky Chin, leader in the Rookie of the Year, begins with a win for Canada over Andrew Funkhauser of the United States. Well, out on the floor right now as the round ticks down, our roving reporter Brian David Marshall is out there finding all the best stories. So, BDM, it's round 1. What do you got?
Well, you know what? I've got a world champion, World Magic Cup champion here, Martin Mueller. Martin, we watched you draft Tell me how that draft went for you from your perspective.
Yeah, the draft started out really well. I first picked a really good white card, but then white got completely cut, so I had to take, and there was a really good red card in pack 2, so I took a mad profit. I think that's like one of the better uncommons. Then at third pick, I got the 1/3 that double Investigate.
Erdwile Illuminator.
Yeah, exactly. I think that card is really, really good. I see that as a signal, so I took that. And clearly enough, blue was wide open both sides. So that was really lucky. And then, yeah, basically red was also reasonable open, but blue was just wide open. So it was just red-blue from that point on.
Now, you ended up in a red-blue spells deck with some flyers. Is that something that you like?
I think it's fine. I don't think blue is that good of a color. And I also don't think red is that good of a color. I think, so in that sense, it's not that great. But I think it's fine. I'm not unhappy being red-blue.
So I walked away from game 1 of your feature match, and I was sure you were dead. Can you explain how you turned that game away or turned that game around and ended up winning the match?
Yeah, so basically you had Cicada and the 4-mana 3/3 that gains all your other creatures the ability at beginning of combat, and you had the Call of the Bloodline. So
Odric, Sigarda, Call of the Bloodline.
So all his creatures had lifelink and flying, so he just was on 30 plus life. But then I could string together Geist Blast to protect me for turn, then untap and then play my 7th land, cast the...
Startled Awake?
Exactly, and then flashback Geist Flame, so I could just mill his entire deck in one turn.
So that's 26 cards.
That's 26 cards.
That's twice as scary as 13.
Yeah, at least when it comes to deck size.
All right, Mark Mueller, continued good games here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad, sending it back to Rich at the news desk.
Thanks very much to Brian David Marshall with Martin Muller there. A few more results to bring you. Neil Oliver defeated Ben Stark in round 1, so that's one Hall of Famer down a match. Lucas Blahon took out Josh Utter-Leighton. Ralph Levy, who celebrates his 20 years of his DCI number, he defeated Mitchell Manders, one of the Belgian players here. Bram Snetvangers of the Hall of Fame, he's underway with a win over Martin Dang of Denmark. And Oliver Tew, one of the up-and-coming young Americans here, he's defeated a Grand Prix winner in this country previously, Christian Seibold, who of course has Pro Tour Top 8 experience to date. So we're closing in on the end of round 1. Tons of limited information to get through, not least because of you, because you've all been on Magic Online drafting away, and we've crunched all the numbers back at WotC HQ, and we can tell you what people are picking in all the successful draft winners. So it's time now to get inside the Magic Online draft archetypes.